So I'm doing something I've been wanting to do for a long time now. I'm actually finally making it happen because it was a microbiology assignment for my lab, which is cool. But I'm making kombucha because I spend way too much money on kombucha and I love it. And I've been wanting to try to make my own for a long time because it's one, way cheaper, and I can make the flavors I want and everything like that. So yeah, I'm making kombucha and I'm really excited about it. So first, let me just break down the steps that I have had to take to make this process a reality. First of all, the ingredients. So there are 5 main ingredients involved in the process of making kombucha. First is distilled water, which I made by boiling tap water on the stove. Then I added the tea bag it's a really big tea bag. You can add like 10 small ones or you can do a really big one. So I did the really big one. And then I steeped that for 3 to 4 minutes, took out the tea bag, took out the tea bag and then added a cup of white sugar. There's some different types of sugars that can be used, but white sugar is supposed to be the best. So that's what I used to start because I don't want to mess it up the first time around. And then after the sugar, I let it sit for a long while. It took a lot longer than I thought it would to cool down. I actually ended up sticking it in the refrigerator because it was not cooling down fast enough. After I let it cool, then I took it from the pot and put it into my container that I'm using to brew my kombucha. I then added the SCOBY, which I will tell you more about in a moment. But I added the SCOBY that I got from, I actually went and bought it because you can't just create it, you have to get it from somewhere, and I didn't know someone who had a starter. So I went and bought that, and then I added that to my cooled sweet tea, and I covered it. Am I missing it? Yeah, covered it with an air breathable cloth. And I put it in a warm location so that I can let it sit and do its thing for the next month or so. Because I like my kombucha really strong. So I am still monitoring my kombucha, but I'm going to show a little bit of kind of the steps that I took next here. And I'll break it down. So you may be wondering, like I was, what exactly is a SCOBY? So a SCOBY contains various strains of bacteria. I'm going to refer to my notes here. Contains various strains of bacteria and yeast and is a self-perpetuating culture, which means that it multiplies itself over and over and over again as kombucha is brewing, and it'll just keep growing and growing and growing, which is why you have to then eventually give away your baby SCOBY, which will grow from the mother SCOBY. So the SCOBY is a symbiotic culture in which there is a coexistence of bacteria and yeast. It is a living organism and its food source is the sweetened black tea. So as it consumes these sugars, the baby SCOBY forms. Depending on the kombucha, the temperature of the kombucha can be made in as little as 1 week, but typically if you want a stronger brew, then it's going to take up to a month. And again, like, the temperature does vary that quite a bit, and because it's winter here in Washington State, I'm thinking it's going to take a little bit longer than a week. So the SCOBY brings in a whole host of types of bacteria and yeast. Strains of bacteria and yeast. I'm going to attempt to pronounce some of these because it depends on the kombucha itself. Each SCOBY has different amounts of different strains of bacteria and yeast. So no kombucha can be guaranteed. Like, even if you buy it in the store, you're not going to be able to guarantee that it's going to have a specific strain because the SCOBY kind of does what it wants. So I'm not exactly sure what my SCOBY contains, but I'm guessing that it's going to be kind of a combination of some of these, which I know I'm going to butcher all of the names, but I will put them on the screen for reference. So I'm going to read these here. Acetobacter, Saccharomyces, Brettanomyces, Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, Gluconesetobacter, and, this is a big one, Zygocaromyces. I'm really sorry I did not pronounce those right, but I tried. So yes, that is what my SCOBY most likely contains. So in the process of making kombucha, while I am making a deliciously tasting beverage that is great for my health, it's also a very intricate process of metabolic processes that I'm going to attempt to break down somewhat for you here. So first off, the byproducts of this process include organic acids, which is a multiplication of the bacteria and yeast within the sweetened tea. So specifically gluconic acids, acetic acids, and fructose, which all give kombucha its tang and its fizz. The metabolic processes involved in brewing kombucha also have a byproduct of carbon dioxide, which is what gives kombucha its carbonation and bubbliness. So that's pretty good. And then it also produces trace amounts of alcohol, but of course that depends on the brewing methods and whether it's pasteurized or not. A little history lesson: just 5 to 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot of standards on kombucha brewing methods, and therefore there was kombucha found on shelves of stores with 2% or more of alcohol, which is really not okay for people who are not of drinking age to be purchasing. So regulations were set on that, and now I believe it has to be 0.5% or less of alcohol content total. So of course pasteurization has aided in that, and then also just deviating from typical brewing methods a little bit. So the longer you brew, the more fermented your drink will become, and possibly the more alcohol content it will contain. The other really awesome byproduct of kombucha is that it contains high amounts of B vitamins, which are just fabulous for your health and sometimes very hard to get, especially for people who maybe eat more of a plant-based diet, as I do myself. So I'm really excited about that as well. As far as my experience with brewing kombucha, as I said, it does take some time, and I just started this process this past week, so I haven't got to try it yet to see if I'm fully successful, but I have brewed this in years past. It's just been a while, and I'm trying a little bit different methods this time. So we will see, but I am following instructions. If I were to do this differently next time, I'm planning on continuing to make kombucha because I've wanted to for a long time. So I know that I want to experiment with different types of tea, different types of sugar, which will change kind of the composition of the kombucha and its process a little bit. So I want to experiment with that. I also would like to make larger batches. Right now I'm making about a gallon at a time, which is a pretty large amount, but you can make more than that, of course, as my SCOBY gets stronger. And I want to be able to set up a method to where it's continuous and I'm not having to constantly make a new batch every time I want kombucha. I can just kind of keep cycling it through. So anyways, I hope that you learned something new about kombucha and that you will go and try it if you have not already, because it's great for your health and it tastes amazing, in my opinion.